explained that there's no reason that I should have let it happen. I should have stopped it right off the bat. But
Sir, I'm still having,
I know I'm trying to have a hard time explaining it to you.
sir, you are the adult.
I am an adult.
You were her grandfather.
I was her grandfather.
You are in a position of authority.
Exactly.
And you said you were trying to not let it happen. I am still very concerned that you are deflecting and blaming the victim. I'm very concerned about your comments.
Okay, that's where I don't understand why you're trying to say that I blame the victim. It's
Because you
not the
said you
victim's
let
fault.
it happen.
I let it happen, not the victim. The victim had a choice. She could have left. I wish she would have. I wish we would have talked about it. I wish I would have went and got help instead of going through with it.
The victim he's referring to is his biological granddaughter, and the ages were from 7 to 10 years old. And I want to retract that statement, victim, and reiterate survivor, because she comes up and she leaves a mic drop. Now, we're about to watch the parole hearing of a monster, of a roach, of a grandfather who is serving a 100-year sentence, yet up for parole just 7 years after his conviction date.
Authorities say 64-year-old Donald Stevens molested a young child multiple times. He allegedly admitted to police that he snapped nude photos of the little girl and touched her inappropriately.
Okay, in the board package, it stated that I put my penis inside her. I did not do that. That I did not do. Everything else is pretty close to what happened. It's been 12, 14 years since it's happened, and a lot of things is forgotten. But I do remember it definitely. I did never put my penis inside her.
Okay, sir, I will make notes of everything you're saying, okay? We will be going over the offense which is I'm assuming what
Okay.
you're asking. I'll also go over procedurally how we got to this hearing. We'll go over any background questions I have, institutional behavior and programming, if you were released, what that would look like. And then at the end of the hearing, I'll give you the final word. I would also know we'll be taking some victim testimony today. Some of the stuff we could be talking about could be traumatizing or re-traumatizing. And I do want to be sensitive to that, okay?
Okay.
So a special attention happened in 2019. It was noted that you completed your high school diploma during that time. A compassionate release was completed in September of 2020. The request was denied, and it was noted if your condition worsened that the department was to inform the board. Does that sound procedurally correct, sir?
That's correct.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the offense. Like I said, I realize I'm trying to be sensitive, obviously, to all parties here. I also will be taking your comments after what I discussed the defense. Then I will have the victim sworn in, and she can make any statement she'd like to make, okay?
Okay.
So case I have 161902487. I show on November 23rd, 2016, a woman reported her daughter, the victim, disclosed that her grandfather had sexually abused her between 2009 and 2011. The father texted Mr. Stevens, asked what had happened. He stated he allowed the victim to watch pornography. The victim stated the sexual assaults, quote, happened a lot, unquote. Mr. Stevens was interviewed when they asked him what happened. He said he sexually assaulted the victim. He said, quote, the demon in him took him, unquote. He became emotional, said he understood he was adult and she was a child, but people, quote, don't understand how much she acted with him, unquote. He became angry when it was disclosed the victim was 7 when the sexual assaults began. Is that correct, sir?
Except for the angry part, I don't recall really getting angry. I recall talking to the officers and telling them the truth that to my knowledge. So,
And I'm making notes of everything you're saying. I make notes throughout the hearing. I don't want anybody to think I'm not listening. So the pre-sentence investigation also noted some statements I find very concerning. Obviously, the offense is concerning in of itself. But it talked about how you, quote, didn't think you felt this was a crime and that you were worried that the grandchildren would blame the victim. I find all of those statements very concerning. Is there anything you would say about that?
When I made those statements at that particular time, it was because the family in general can be forced against each other. And I didn't want that. I want them to be happy. I want them the way they was before this all came about, and before they found out what happened. And they were all happy. They were all together. They was having, family reunions and stuff like that. The family does have tendency to like to argue and fight. That's basically in the nature of that. And so that statement was made to hopefully get them to understand that she's not to blame. It's my blame. I did it, not her. It was not her fault, period. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that even though I'm the adult, I should have stopped it right then instead of trying to run and hide and get away from it. I
What do you
should
mean
stop.
try to run and
I
hide?
left Utah to get away
Or
from it,
Michigan, right?
to stop what was
Your
going on.
actions is what you're saying. You went to try to stop your actions?
Right. But it has been eating away at me ever since it happened. And there was no, like I'm trying to explain it, there's no reason that I should have let it happen. I should have stopped it right off the bat. But
Sir, I'm still having,
I know I'm trying to have a hard time explaining it to you.
sir, you are the adult.
I am an adult.
You were her grandfather.
I was her grandfather.
You are in a position of authority.
Exactly.
And you said you were trying to not let it happen. I am still very concerned that you are deflecting and blaming the victim. I'm very concerned about your comments.
Okay, that's where I don't understand why you're trying to say that I blame the victim. It's
Because you
not the
said you
victim's
let
fault.
it happen.
I let it happen, not the victim. The victim had a choice. She could have left. I wish she would have. We would have talked about it. I wish I would have went and got help instead of going through with it.
And sir, I just want to make sure I understood what you said correctly. Did you say the victim could have left?
Okay, she could have left anytime she wanted. I never forced her to do anything she did not want to do.
Okay, sir, is there anything you would say about victim impact?
So that's, what do you mean?
Anything you'd say about victim empathy? Obviously, the victim is listening. Is there anything you'd like to say about maybe what she has gone through?
I'm going to be perfectly honest with that one and perfectly frank. I don't know what she's been through. I wasn't allowed to talk to her afterwards or anything else like that. I hope that she got the help that she needed. I prayed that she got the help that she needed. I hope she's doing fine. And, so I don't know how she did. I don't know if they gave her the classes that she needed or not. Because I wasn't allowed to have contact with the victim.
Okay, and sir, and I would
Am
note,
I sorry that it happened? Yes, I'm very sorry that it happened.
sir, and what I would note is I'm a hearing officer. At the end of the day, I make recommendations. The board ultimately decides what's going to happen moving forward. But I've never seen the board grant parole without some kind of no victim contact condition. Would you abide by that, sir?
Oh, yes.
All right, ma'am. Did you want to make a statement? Okay, I'm gonna have you, and, sir, I'm gonna let the victim, I'm gonna swear her in. She can provide a statement. I will ask you for your response afterwards. Please direct your response to me and not towards the victim, okay?
Okay.
You want to just get to that microphone if that's okay? Ma'am, can you please state your name for the record?
Uh,
Thank you for coming to this hearing. My name is Kelly Perry. I'm a hearing officer with the Board of Pardons, okay? I'm going to go ahead and swear you in, so if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Ma'am, please make any statement that you would like to make today.
You probably remember me as a little girl that was left silent because I didn't want to face you. But now I'm back and refuse to go silent. For years, I couldn't understand where my depression came from I constantly still battle them every single day. You left me with wounds that still haven't closed and scars that will not heal. I still have nightmares even as an adult now. I never understood why I stayed silent for so long, but now I do. I stayed silent because I thought others would judge me. I stayed silent because I thought I didn't have a voice. I fought for years. I once thought to just give up because you would never leave my head. You ruined my childhood. Everyone always talks about how great theirs was, and I couldn't even remember mine. For years, I thought my body wasn't my own, but that was not the truth. Flash forward to today, I'm still healing that childhood I never had through my son. This pain will never go away. I no longer see myself as a victim. I am a survivor, and I will never be at peace.
Ma'am, did you want to make any other statement today? Okay, thank you for coming today. Sir, please direct your response to me and not towards the victim. Any statement that you would like to make?
My response is, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it happened. I wish there was a way I could turn it back. I really do. I can understand her and what she said about it still bothers her today. It still bothers me today. I mean, it's bugged me, well, not necessarily bugged me, but it's been on my mind is why did I let that happen? Why did I do that? She was a perfect little girl. So why did I have to ruin that? I didn't,
Do you have any insight into your risks? What do you think your risks are, sir?
pardon me,
What are your risks? What do you think your risks are?
what do you mean by it?
Why do you, so when engaging in criminal behavior, there's things that contribute to that, your risks. What do you think your risks are in regards to this criminal behavior? Moving forward. What were your risks then and what are your risks now?
And if you give me a few seconds to think about this,
That's okay. Take your
the
time.
risk then at that particular time was not even thought about. It wasn't even, it's okay, big deal. So, stuff like that. The risk now, after classes and everything else that I took in here, is that stop, think, listen. Listen to what that victims are saying to you. Listen to what the person's saying to you. Before, I was just, okay, I'm going to do what I want to do anyway. But now that's wrong. What you want to do is completely different than what you should do. You need to stop and think about it. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing this? Who's it going to hurt? Why is it going to hurt them? Stop and think about that before you even make that move to do anything like that again.
Okay, sir. Do you remember receiving the psychosexual evaluation?
Yes,
Before I go into specifics of it, what did you think?
about what she said or
The evaluation itself, yeah, and
the
what she said.
evaluation in itself. The evaluation in itself was very understanding to a certain point.
What do you mean by that?
The reason I'm saying it was a certain point was because of her answer. And her answer at the end was some of the things that she recommended and some of the things that she said.
Who's
Detail.
she? You mean the evaluator?
Yeah. If I have the opportunity to be out of here, I want to make amends. I want to make amends to everybody that I've hurt.
What do you mean by you'll make amends?
Make it up to them. Show them my actions. My actions speak louder than my words. I want to be able to show them that I'm not that person. I've changed. I've learned. I've grew. I grew from the person I was then to the person I am now. I feel
What caused that change?
I'm a positive change. I'm positive.
What caused your change?
A lot of the classes,
What class?
plus a lot of the classes that I took here. I took a lot of classes here, and a lot of them made open up my eyes to what happened and why hey, why did you do something that stupid? Why was you even, thinking about that? So my way of thinking at the time was, I didn't give it, okay, excuse the language, I didn't give a shit. My language, my way of thinking now is, hey, yes, you do. You care. They care. There's a lot of people that care. So I've got to show them that I've learned, that I've moved on, that I can be a better person now. They don't need to be scared. They don't need to be afraid, because hopefully that'll never happen again. I got to say hopefully, because there's no guarantee on anything. You can't guarantee that this building is not going to fall down tomorrow. You can't guarantee that. So there's no guarantee on anything. But I can promise you 99 to 9/10%, it will never, never happen again.
I want to go into some specifics of the report. So it assessed you as an average risk. It noted that you report, what I've talked about a little bit earlier, that, that your interactions, quote unquote, consensual, which I still find concerning, sir. It seems to me you're still using the same language that you use in that pre-sentence investigation. It recommended you do the core program in prison. It recommended that you take life skills and that you address your attitude towards your offense, such as taking accountability, and of course is focused on the victim. What do you think of all that I just went over?
I think that's great. I think if they want me to do more classes, that's great. I have been taking all the classes I can here. I'm willing to take all the classes I can. If I could get out, if I ever get out, I will take classes out there also. I'm learning a lot from the classes. Hopefully, I'll have the knowledge to pass it on to help somebody else. Hopefully. But I've got to have the classes first. It's hard to, explain something to somebody for me. But I mean, I'm trying to explain something, and you're sitting there saying one thing when I'm trying to explain a different. And the same thing with her. That's what I couldn't understand. How do you feel any sexual thing in this conversation that we're having, even with the conversation that I had with
Sir,
her?
I may be confused. I don't understand what you're saying.
That's what I mean. I probably don't understand what you're saying either, because you're saying something about I have sexual frustration or something like that somewhere
I didn't
around.
say, I said the evaluator in the psychosexual evaluation, she said you used the term consensual when referring to the offense. I'm assuming that's what you mean. I'm quoting what the evaluator said, and I was wanting insight from you.
Okay, now I understand what you're saying. So,
So do you have any comments?
and that's what I'm saying, I still don't feel like talking to her. I don't see where anything sexual was involved in that. So,
And I realize this is probably difficult things I'm talking about, so I am trying to get as much insight as I can. Okay, sir, that's the point of this hearing, right? The board obviously is very concerned with community safety is one of the things, and I am trying to find out your perspective on sex offender treatment. I'm trying to find out as much information as I can, because what I have are the psychosexual evaluation. I have everything in your blue disclosure packet, right? So I'm trying to get as much information from you as possible. Okay.
okay.
The board did note some physical health issues that you were received in a compassionate release. Do you have anything you want to say about your physical health issues, sir?
My physical condition is declining. I mean, I went to the doctor yesterday, and with my age and everything else like that, it's declining, which means it's not getting worse and it's not getting better. Can you know what I mean on that one? I'm doing exercise. I'm doing stuff that the doctors and stuff recommend to keep staying on the healthy side, and that's what I'm doing. Now, if I just give up, it's going to be really bad. They want to put they want to put something in my heart to stop the blood clots and stuff like that. And so on the health part, as long as I keep going to the doctors and stuff like that, hopefully they'll keep me alive for a while. So, but I'm gonna try to live as long as I can.
I would note you have no disciplinaries. In regards to release, I showed that you would like to live with your wife in Michigan, and working, or that you previously worked in construction, I should say. Is that still the plan, sir?
Because before I came here, I was on a disability. That's because of my health problems. At my age right now, I hope I can get on SSI and Social Security. But if it takes going out trying to find a job that I can do, I will do it. I've done dishwashing. I've cooked food. I've done dishwashers. Financially, I've always been able to find something. I'm also what you call a jack of all trades and a master of none. I'm going to be limited to the things that I can do because of the crime.
Do you still plan on going back to Michigan?
That's going to be a toss up in the air now. I've got to be honest with you. I would love to.
And I don't know what the board will do, I should say, but
Right.
I'm asking if they were parole you, what your plans are.
Right. I would love to, but that one's tossed in the air because I'm at the situation to where you are. It's going to all depend on what the board does. If the board says they're going to grant me parole, then I can work on the places that I'm going to stay and the places I want to go. I've been in contact with some of my other daughters and some of my other kids, and they would like me to come to Oklahoma, which I would love that too.
Sir,
The,
do any of these households have children in them?
no,
And sir, once again, I don't know what the board will do. I'm just going over as much information as I can. But I think it is very likely, given your offense, that you have what are called sex offender A conditions, which means no contact with children.
right.
And would you abide by that?
No, yes.
Okay, sir. So those are all of my questions. From here, I'm a hearing officer. I make recommendations. The board ultimately decides. They're made up of 5 members. 3 of them have to come to one decision. That's the decision of the board. You should get that in writing within 2 to 4 weeks. I make note of your guidelines, sir. Your guideline, the CCJJ, Commission on Criminal Justice and Juveniles issue them. They're based on a number of factors, obviously one of them being your offense. Your guideline, your suggested date, probably the best way to think of it, is 216 months or December 5th, 2034. I want you to understand that's just a suggestion, right? The board can go below that date. They can go above that date. They can do the same date. They decide what happens moving forward, okay? And I showed the expiration of your sentence, meaning the longest time the board could have jurisdiction over you is 2116. Do you have any closing comments or questions for myself or for the board, sir?
Can I address the victim?
You can address
Through you,
me.
rather.
You can say anything you want to say to me, not to the victim.
Okay. I'm sorry. I wish that it never would have happened. You know that you were one of my favorite grandchilds, and you know that, or I hope you knew that. If I had the opportunity, I would never, ever do that again. I hope someday that you're able to forgive me. Not with just your mind, but with your heart. I hold nothing against you. You did the right thing by coming forward, and I'm glad. I'm glad you did. Right now, all I could do is just wish you the best of luck and hope you have a long, happy life. I wish I could have been a part of it, but that's going to be entirely up to you. That's your choice.
Sir, I would note your conditions of parole as well. I just need to emphasize this. If you're paroled, a condition of parole will be no contact without APMP, the victim, therapist. There's a
Exactly.
lot of, and I understand that you are probably trying to ask for forgiveness, but I am concerned that you're talking about contact, right? That's,
Okay,
that you
I'm
will
not,
violate parole if you have contact. Do you understand that?
I'm not, I knew this was gonna pop up that way too. I'm not talking about contact
Okay. Okay, right.
because
And that's
that's
my-
why I want to say it now, because I just want her to know that I'm sorry.
And I made notes of everything you've said today. I made notes of all the comments made today. Okay, sir, I appreciate you coming to this hearing. We'll go ahead and conclude. Thank you.
I'm happy to share with you that they denied he's not going to have another opportunity to come up for parole for another 10 years. Now, for those of you who are new to this channel, you might say, of course they were going to deny. What's the update here? But it's not true. Trust me. We see them grant these roaches all the time. Where do I start with this hearing? You know, sometimes you have hearings where there's just a few touch points, a few items that can infuriate you, and sometimes the entire hearing is just so disturbing that it's like it's an information overload. I have pages of notes on each item to discuss. I don't know where to start, but I'm going to start with the system. I'm going to start with the system because we know these monsters exist. So let's not yet rage on the monster. There'll be plenty coming for that. But to start with, what I thought was just absolutely disgusting is that he can even have the opportunity to have this parole hearing after being given a 100-year sentence. It's clear that this monster has no business in getting out. It's clear by the crime that he committed, and we can go over those details. Remember, this is a biological granddaughter. She was 7 years old up until 10 for 3 years. They found pictures of her in his computer, which he tried to destroy before he was caught. Why would he get a parole hearing just a few years after even the initial conviction date? Can you make that up? He was convicted in 2017. That's 7 years ago. Why are they putting the victim through the emotional stress of having to, it's not just getting up here and talking. It's the second she gets the notification that a parole hearing is happening, all the loss of sleep, all the anxiety, the what ifs they release him, and they release these monsters. They do. That fear is understandable because it's authentic. I mean, it's a real fear. It's not just. And then to have her come up to relive it when she's trying to, it's insane. Not to mention, just a few months ago in the pre-parole process, he's still blaming her. He's still saying it was consensual. He said, we saw it all here. Why? And that's in the legislation. That's how the legislation is written by the lawmakers in Utah. And we found out by covering these parole hearings that these laws and the legislation and how it's written, it's all a gimmick. When we first started covering Utah, Richard said, wow, this Utah's going to be tough. Look at the sentences they're handing out. 100 years. We don't see this in Louisiana. We're seeing 5 years, 4 years, 2 years probation. But it's just a gimmick because you can get up for parole immediately. And many don't realize this because the DA just issues a press release. We sentence him to 100 years. Parole eligibility after 2 years. How does that make sense? Now, they pushed it off, which is like, again, what the legislation allows. They gave it the maximum. It's 10 years. He'll be, I think, 80-something years old. early 80s, still young enough to get out, still young enough to cause damage. Still the idea that she does have to come back in 10 years to face him again, but at least it is 10 years. I like this parole board interviewer. She's the mama bear of the Utah parole here, and we've seen her multiple times, and we've seen her drop mics and just get genuinely upset. And she does seem like a victim advocate. I'll put links to other hearings that stand out with her in the interview process. It is weird that you start 7 to 10 years old. He says he goes on to say, you know, she could have left. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have allowed it to happen. See, I ran away to another state because, you know, it was the whole really, and then what was so, there was something, it was like a deep bone chilling nastiness when he addresses her. And it was like, I think we all knew it was coming. It was like, oh no. And they allow that addressing, but he chooses that at that time to manipulate her. When he says those words, "You are my favorite granddaughter," I wanted to just jump through this screen. And some of you might wonder, how is it that someone like this is still, and that's because they usually house these inmates in the same wards and protective custody, or the same, but and then the system, even with all this information, even with everything that we have, you know, he was an open book, and he's not smart enough. He's not manipulative, I should say. There are manipulative roaches, and then there are non-manipulative, and we see them all the time on like The Catch a Predator and you know, Alex Rosen, Fried Pickles, right? We see it all the time, how they don't really understand in the sense of how people perceive them, and they just talk and they just spew insanity, which is insanity to all of us people who have empathy and who have, but to them he's still saying things. He doesn't have that insight. I don't know what it is. Is it a psychopath? I don't know. But even with all that information, the state, the PhDs and their risk assessment scores, they still only rate him as an average risk. Average. What does average mean? What is this saying? Is this how? You know, we're just sheeple. We don't understand what, you know, obviously they know it better. It's just average. Even in his own words, I can't guarantee it won't happen again. I can't guarantee the building won't fall, but it probably won't happen again. You know, there's just so much I want to say for this hearing. You know, the survivor gets up and she just lays it out so beautifully, so succinctly. So it just didn't speak too many words. It was just it said just enough to lay down the facts in the purest form. And she said, "I'm a survivor." Man, I love that. You probably remember me as a little girl who was afraid. Afraid to speak out. But I'm a survivor. And you know what also is disturbing in this? I don't know if you caught it, but his plan when he gets out is to move in with his wife. So this rich's wife is staying with him. It's just a cesspit of this of insanity. Now, this is the news article, and thank you, Richard, for stringing this all together, making sure that we see this hearing, recording the hearing, doing the research on the hearing. This was written December 12, 2016. Roy, Utah. A Roy man is facing several felony charges that include of a child allegedly admitted abusing over several years. According to the statement of probable cause field in Weber County, a young girl told her mother that the suspect had been doing it between ages of 7 to 10. The victim told authorities that the suspect, who was 64 at the time, had touched her inappropriately in various ways over the course of a 3-year period. Evidence collected by the police, including messages in which the suspect partially admitted to some of the incidents and admitting to showing the victim this. Police interviewed Stephens, and post Miranda, he told authorities he rubbed and wrestled with the girl and encouraged her to strip while he took photographs. This is his granddaughter. He also admitted to various acts of inappropriate, according to the PC statement. He was booked in jail December 7th and faces 2 counts of child. I'm just not saying these words because you can't make it up. I don't know why I wish they could have sentenced him to 1,000 years, but I guess they have. But as we can see, again, it's just a gimmick because up for parole, and he applied for relief, for medical relief, pretty much immediately after getting locked up. Cockroach. So there you have it. And this is why we do this. We do this to show the world there are those that think, we should give second chances. We shouldn't lock people up for life. People can change. There are programs. He's only an average risk to reoffend. For those who in your life who have that empathy for the victims, and this is I saw Sheriff Judd Grady say this last week on one of his, and it resonated with me. And he said, for those of you who have empathy for the perpetrator, it's good and all to have empathy. It means you're probably a good person. But we don't want to have empathy for the monster. Have empathy for the survivor. Have empathy for the victims. Your empathy, when it's for the person in prison, it's misguided. When someone looks, and I see in the comment section, they say, Mandoo, you're too tough. You don't want them to get out. It's like, where's your empathy? And the answer is, my empathy is for the survivors that are begging the board not to release the monster. That's where my empathy is. And if there's anyone in your life that might need to see this maybe can help get through. If you want to see more hearings like this, please subscribe. And with that, I'll let you go.
Flash forward to today, I'm still healing that childhood I never had through my son. This pain will never go away. I no longer see myself as a victim. I am a survivor, and I will never be at peace.